So what we're going to do is we're going to start with House Bill 2598. And Josh, or excuse me, Whitney, if you'll give us a...
Yes, thank you, Chair Przanski, members of the committee. House Bill 2598 expands vehicular assault to include contact with a motorcycle that results in physical injury. The Dash 1 amendment titles this offense as the Milkman Mike Act. The Dash 1 has no revenue and a minimal fiscal impact.
All right, again, for everyone that's here, what we're going to do is I'll be taking testimony for the members. We'll be coming back for other public testimony. I want to get Representative Post on his way because I know he has other things needs to be done. So, gentlemen, whoever would like to go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Andy Olson, State Representative from the Albany area. And I just want to say thank you for hearing House Bill 2598. My testimony is on OLS. It's very short. This measure is simple. It adds motorcycles to ORS 811.060, the vehicular assault statute. Currently, the law applies to pedestrians and bicyclists alone. The bill describes that a person commits the offense of vehicular assault if the person recklessly operates a motor vehicle upon a highway in a manner that results in contact between the person's vehicle and either a pedestrian, bicyclist, or motorcycle. Additionally, the contact causes physical injury to the individual. I can describe to you what the reckless part of it is under 161.085, but that's there in my testimony, so I won't slow down on that. I do want to reflect a little bit on the Dash 1 amendments. The Dash 1 amendments ask for a consideration to identify this bill as the Milkman Mike Act. And I got to describe just a little bit to you who Mike was. Mr. Chair, you'll enjoy this. I mean, although you're not a motorcyclist.
Well, how do you know that?
But well, that's true. Okay, I don't.
I had a license once in my life.
Okay.
For a motorcycle.
All right, I'll move on. Thank you.
But that's back in Texas.
Oh.
I understand here they actually check licenses, so.
Great. Mike Hamer passed away about 2 years ago at the age of 58. He was a biker. He lived life to the fullest each day. He was a small business owner in Albany. He owned affordable septics. He was a veteran, a patriot, a husband, and a father. When Mike was in his 40s, he had open heart surgery. The doctors told him that he was only going to live about a year. He lived more than a year. He lived for another decade. He died in his sleep. His heart just gave out. He got his name from being known as a man who delivered on his promises. He delivered like the milkman. Mike believed that people needed to be held to a higher standard of accountability when they hurt a biker. That's essentially what it is, Mr. Chair and committee members, for the bill.
All right. Thank you. Representative Post.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Bill Post from Kaiser, Oregon, and I guess I'm here because I'm the token biker of the legislature. There are others that ride, and I now recognize the chair as a fellow rider from Texas. They ride differently down there, but no, I'm kidding. But this bill was really important to me because as one who rides daily, in fact, my bike's down in the garage right now, what I find as a biker is nonstop is having to deal with reckless drivers who say they don't see us, thus the little horn on the bike that's kind of worthless, and thus the big open pipes that are a little more worthwhile because you wrap those a couple of times and people's attention are gotten. But in the numerous collisions and near collisions that I've had over my biking career of 40 years, the reckless part is what stands out to me in this bill, and that's why I wanted to be a part of it, because it puts us on the what makes sense, the same level as a pedestrian or a bicyclist. We're in a very vulnerable position. We don't have iron around us. So that's really all I wanted to say, is just as a biker and as a member of this legislature, this bill was really important to me and to know many, many bikers. We had a wonderful biker rally a couple of weekends ago out in front of the Capitol, and the people were very enthusiastic about this bill. So I just want to urge your passage and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Questions for the representatives? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Now we're going to pick up on House Bill 2598. So we'll reopen the public hearing for that. And I have three individuals that have signed up, Paula Leslie, Doug Tiller, and Chris Slatter, excuse me. If you all come forward, while they're coming up, is there anyone else besides those three who want to give testimony on House Bill 2598? I'm sorry?
Is that in addition to who's already signed up?
The only people I have on 2598 at this point are the ones I've called up. Mary,
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was looking
you're
at
on a
the
different
notes.
bill.
I really apologize.
That's quite all right. So let me just say that this bill is going to move forward. So if you can keep your statements to the points that you want to put on the record, that will help us get through the other couple of public hearings we have today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Prozansky and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Paula Leslie. I'm the Legislative Director for Bike Pack of Oregon. Bike Pack of Oregon represents Abate of Oregon and all of Oregon's motorcycle riders. We promote motorcycle safety, awareness, education, and liberty through legislative action, and we work closely with transportation safety stakeholders in order to bring about that mission statement. We surveyed nearly 1,000 motorcycle riders to get an idea of their top legislative concerns, and driver accountability was number 2 as their most important. Today we're asking parity and accountability among road users. We're not asking to be labeled vulnerable road users or to be put into a special class. And with that, I'll direct the rest of the testimony to Christopher Slater.
Actually, Doug, did you want to say anything?
Chairman Pozansky, I will defer, and members of the committee, my testimony. Representative Olson covered the -1 amendment that I was going to cover, so I'll defer to Christopher Slater.
And Doug, just before we defer, if you'll just put your name on the record so we have that covered.
Doug Tiller, I am the Director of Bike Pack of Oregon.
All right, Doug, thank you. And Chris?
Yes. Chair Prozansky, members of the committee, my name is Christopher Slater. I am a motorcycle rider and a motorcycle accident attorney. My testimony is in OLIS, so I just wanted to point to 3 key things I think that should be put on the record on this bill. Number 1, I think there's a common misperception, even among members of our legislature, that motorcycles are on the vulnerable users list. We are not. So the careless driving statute escalator under that statute, as well as the Senate Bill 493, does not apply to motorcycles. I want to make sure that's clear. 2, this only applies to reckless drivers. So there's a mental culpability standard. It's set forth in the criminal code. We're not talking about careless acts. We're talking about acts that involve mental culpability on the part of the offending driver. And the third is that I resubmitted, Troy Costalis from ODOT presented statistical evidence at the House committee hearing. That was not resubmitted. I think it's important to have the statistical data that shows the disparate impact reckless drivers have on motorcyclists and their passengers. As I understand it, that's something important for the legislative consideration of any new crime. That's all I have. Unless the committee has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Senator Manning first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I read through this and reread through this this bill, I understand what the bill is saying, but playing devil advocate, what are the cyclists' obligation if they run into a vehicle or another pedestrian?
The obligations are identical to motorcycle operators as they are to car drivers. And so the reckless operation of a motorcycle that injures a pedestrian or a bicyclist, or as we would propose under this bill, another motorcyclist or their passenger would be similarly punishable as a Class A misdemeanor if they're convicted.
Okay, is that ingrained in this bill, or is that already existing?
The proposed bill does not change the definition of vehicle operator. It only changes the identity of the protected class members of the statute by adding motorcyclists and their passengers to the already existing list, which only includes pedestrians and bicyclists. I'm not a criminal defense attorney, but we have a unique statute in Oregon compared to other states, which don't usually define the class members that are protected.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I guess I just want to follow up, Chris, on the statement that you said. I'm looking at the bill just for my clarity. It does not appear, I had the impression that the bill was also going to identify motorcycle operators as vulnerable users of the highway. And you're saying it does not, and it does not appear.
It does not. That's another bill for another day that I think merits further discussion.
And can you tell me if that discussion occurred on the House side, or why it was not included here? Because that seems to be potentially in sync with this, or the next step.
There was no specific discussion on the record that I can recall. I did make it clear in my testimony before that committee that we're not on the vulnerable users list, and this bill did not change that.
Okay. All righty. Senator Thatcher.
Following up on what he just said, I'm glad that this actually identifies a reckless state of mind for the driver, not just an accident. But anyway, my next question would be, if, kind of following up on Senator Manning's question, if the motorcyclist kind of caused, I mean, maybe both were acting recklessly, is there, I don't know, contributory negligence or something where you kind of balance out who's at fault?
Well, there's two questions that I see there. One, I'm qualified to answer, which is civil liability. There's always going to be, irregardless of any criminal process, the potential for any party that's involved in an accident to bring forward a civil case. There is comparative fault in that, and Oregon has a 50-50 comparative fault statute as opposed to Washington, which is a pure comparative fault statute. So if the motorcycle operator was more than 50% at fault, the motorcycle operator would not be able to recover damages in a case against another vehicle operator. As to the criminal aspect of your question, of course, I recognize we have a prosecutor and a former law enforcement officer on our panel. I would defer to them and their experience in terms of how it's dealt with in a criminal matter if you have two different participants that are potentially culpable of crimes involved in the same incident.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those case-by-case basis. The officer that's on the field, he or she are going to make a determination as to whether one or both should be cited for their conduct. Then when the prosecutor gets it, he or she is going to look at it and decide and determine whether both should be going forward or how they want to process the case. I mean, I've seen cases where individuals that are involved in conduct that both are contributors to it, both of them actually being cited for that. Disorderly conduct is a classic case where individuals are involved in a fight and they're both fighting. Sometimes we've looked at that as mutual combat. Other times, because of the disturbance or issues, they both end up getting prosecuted for being engaged in a fighting in the middle of the road or whatever. Chris?
If I could have just one very short ad. Thank you, Chair Przansky, members of the committee. On another bill, you heard from Dwight Gibbons, who is a client of mine who was pushed under a car waiting to go onto a freeway on-ramp. And the driver in that case struck him so hard it pushed him under the car, and the car proceeded to go down and struck the barrier and broke its own axle. That driver was cited for careless driving contributing to an accident, the effect of which is a $435 fine. There's no escalator applying to the accident, and so that was the only criminal outcome of that accident, was a $435 ticket for the offending driver.
All right. Any other questions for this panel?
I guess I do have one question.
Senator Thatcher.
What was the, I guess, the problem with some of the House members that voted against it? Did you hear what the reasons were voting against it?
I have not had an opportunity to watch the floor testimony. My understanding is that there is a contingent of House members that have concerns about new penalties or escalating penalties. We had some bills at the House committee that were on the same day as ours, and there is some notion that maybe there's too much criminalizing of conduct going on. But again, I did not watch the House floor debate, so I want to be careful. But that's what I heard.
Okay, Senator Lithicum.
Not so much a question, but just a comment with regard to that. Just a minute ago, we had testimony about collateral damage and felony conviction that, is there forever, especially in regard to traffic violations. I can see hesitancy for these escalatory aspects of this to lump on and create a quagmire of penalties. We're calling someone reckless and identifying their action as describing their state of mind, I can recognize the problems.
All right. Okay, any other questions? Not, thank you all very much. It looks like we do have all the paperwork together and ready to go on this one, so I'm going to go and close the public hearing on House Bill 2598, and I'm going to open up a work session on House Bill 2598. We do need the dash ones to include the title for the bill.
Mr. Chair, I move the dash one amendments to House Bill 2598.
Senator Thatcher moves the dash one amendments into House Bill 2598. Discussion? Any objections? So ordered. Senator Thatcher?
Mr. Chair, I move House Bill 2598 as amended with the dash ones to the floor with a due pass recommendation.
All right, Senator Thatcher moves House Bill 2598 as amended by the dash ones to the floor with a due pass recommendation. Discussion?
I'll agree to let it go. I may change my mind as I gather more data.
All right, I understand. And I think some of the stuff that you've raised, Senator Lithicum, is really kind of that broader discussion or perspective of our min rays, of how we actually charge people based on the conduct, as Senator Thatcher referred to on the other bill, that on 493, it's criminal negligence, reckless is the next, knowingly is after that, and then the most certain is intentional. So those are just kind of our confines here. Other comments or discussions? Any objections at this point? And it sounds like, Senator Lethicum, you're going to be a yes here and then reserve your right to maybe change on the floor?
Yes, sir.
All right, so it's unanimous. Bill goes forward. I'm looking at who has actually signed on as sponsors for the bill. I'm going to ask that Senator Hansel be the carrier, since he signed on to the bill as one of the sponsors. If he is not wanting to do so, the chair will carry the bill. With that, we'll close the work session on House Bill 2598, and we're